You didn't stumble upon this message by scrolling aimlessly. There's a magnetic force at play, something far deeper than coincidence that orchestrated this moment. Forget the background noise. The universe itself has been sending you a persistent, resonant signal. It cut through the clutter of your daily life, pushed past the constant dull throb of exhaustion, and spoke to the anxious, unshakable beat beneath your ribs. Every night you spent staring at the ceiling, every moment your physical being felt inexplicably heavy or off kilter, every sudden chill, that was not simply stress. That was the divine whisper calling your name, a subtle but insistent summons you couldn't ignore. I need to be perfectly clear, this isn't intended to be a feel-good meditation track or another light-hearted motivational speech. Consider this moment a sacred intervention, a powerful transmission of energy disguised as spoken words. You aren't meant to feel instantly comfortable, you're meant to be jolted fully awake. Right now, as you try to reconcile the internal dissonance and the physical turmoil you've been experiencing, a profound, holy restructuring is occurring within you. The very framework that carried the burden of your old identity and your past wounds is currently being systematically dismantled. The spiritual residence that housed your deepest anxieties and worst fears is undergoing a full-scale renovation, orchestrated by forces you cannot see but can absolutely feel. You've pleaded for a transformation, a monumental shift in your life, but you must understand a fundamental truth of creation. A new, massive outpouring of destiny cannot be contained within a fractured, old container. Before the next, higher phase of your purpose can be poured into you, the vessel, you must be completely reforged. This explains the inexplicable fatigue that settles deep in your bones, the irregular, sometimes alarming rhythm of your heart, and the dramatic, confusing shifts between deep inner calm and intense panic. None of this internal upheaval is happening by random chance. It is the unmistakable signature of the divine carving a new pattern into your very existence. This process of deep spiritual reconstruction isn't a gentle, spa-like experience. It is precise, intelligent, and surgical in its execution. When it's time for a soul to be remade, the universe doesn't wait for polite permission. It simply initiates the necessary procedure. Therefore, you must listen with absolute focus. If you choose to ignore this powerful internal call, if you dismiss this profound season as nothing more than a rough patch, your spirit may struggle to cope with the sheer weight of what is rapidly approaching. This is not a message designed to instill fear in your heart. It is a clarion call intended to trigger your total awakening. You are standing directly on the threshold of a holy metamorphosis, a place where the deepest, most fundamental parts of your physical being are finally remembering the glory of their original blueprint. So take a deep breath, chosen one. Ground yourself entirely in this present moment. Before the duration of this message runs out, something fundamental in your body, your thoughts, and your eternal spirit will experience a permanent, irreversible shift. If you can feel a deep, resonant stirring in your core as these words land, consider that your absolute confirmation. You were meant to encounter this truth at this precise time. Take a moment and leave a 99 right now as a sign of this completion. The number 9 plus 9 represents divine finality, symbolizing the end of your wearying old cycle, and confirming that your completely new vessel, your elevated identity, is not coming. It is already in the process of being birthed. Acknowledge this message as a spark for the new beginning. Subscribe if you feel the pull, and understand that the celestial operation has begun. Listen with the utmost seriousness of a soul that knows it is facing a monumental crossroads. Your deep and consuming exhaustion is not a sign of your failure. It is, in fact, an authorized shutdown sequence initiated by heaven itself. It's designed to power down the tired old electrical grid of your life so that a cleaner, far more potent current can be safely installed. The periods of mental fog and dizziness are not symptoms of weakness. They are evidence of your internal compass undergoing a necessary, major recalibration, finally being set to true north after years of misguided navigation by artificial, flickering lights. Those strange, deep, and often unfamiliar aches deep within your bones are not signs of deterioration. They are the ancient spiritual vaults of your very marrow being flung open. This is so the original, perfect blueprint, the one written by the Creator for your existence, can be reread, verified, and reissued. When an architect of magnificent intent plans to raise a glorious new cathedral, the first and most necessary action is to order a controlled, intelligent demolition of the existing structure. This is why the scaffolding of the person you once were is collapsing around you in slow, deliberate, and intelligent waves. You find your thoughts are constantly sparking, stalling, and then suddenly surging again. This is because your internal frequency is being actively detuned from the exhausting, low-level buzz of mere survival, and is being meticulously tuned to the powerful, clear frequency of your divine assignment. Even your emotions, which have often felt overwhelming and chaotic, are being intensely sifted. It's a process much like panning for gold in a fast, moving riverbed until only that which is genuinely true, immutably clean, and carries profound spiritual weight remains. The faint, constant tremor in your breath, the sudden, inexplicable rise and fall of body heat, the unexpected flash of a forgotten memory demanding immediate forgiveness, all of it is undeniable evidence that heaven has placed you firmly in the sacred forge. Fire, by its very nature, doesn't wait for permission to purify. It simply understands one universal law, that purity requires temperature. Therefore, the temperature has been deliberately raised. This purifying furnace is not your adversary, it is your ultimate ally. Do not spend your energy cursing the intensity of the flame. That heat is actively and efficiently burning away the emotional and spiritual splinters that have been lodged deep in your soul for years. There will certainly be moments when you feel profoundly hollowed out, as if major parts of your old identity have been completely emptied. Do not give in to panic. Remember this truth: an empty vessel is the only kind that can carry fresh, anointing oil. There will be frustrating days where your palate changes, and the comfort foods of your past life suddenly taste like bitter dust. Do not attempt to force down what your soul no longer requires. Your body is now actively refusing any fuel that cannot sustain your highest calling. There will be long, confusing hours when the silence becomes intensely heavy, almost crushing, before it shatters open into a clarity so sharp it is almost painful to perceive. Do not run from this piercing insight. Clarity possesses the power to cut through your deeply ingrained habits of confusion just as easily as it cuts through ancient emotional bonds. Now, press 2 fingers firmly to the pulse in your neck or wrist. Notice how it subtly but immediately steadies at the mention of absolute truth. This reaction confirms everything. Truth is the very oxygen your destiny requires. Yes, you are in the process of shedding old, deeply ingrained appetites, old reflexive behaviors, and the heavy, familiar emotional armor that once provided a feeling of safety, but is now actively keeping you profoundly small. Yes, your sleep patterns will become frustratingly erratic, thinning and thickening in odd cycles. This is because your brain is actively pruning the neural pathways that exclusively served your fear, and is rapidly growing and reinforcing the new pathways that will serve your absolute faith. Yes, the people who once felt like a magnetic necessity in your life will suddenly feel distant and unnecessary. This is not because you have become cold or aloof, but because your spiritual orbit has drastically changed, and the gravity of your new position no longer aligns with theirs. Surrender entirely to this calibration. Any resistance or stubborn clinging to the past will only serve to unnecessarily lengthen the duration of the spiritual surgery. Receive and embrace this profound, sacred logic. What feels like a catastrophic collapse is not a failure when it is commanded by the divine. It is a reconfiguration. Understand that deep reconfiguration always feels intensely like a great, overwhelming loss until the perfect new pattern locks firmly into its proper place. You must resist the urge to prematurely label or define what is currently unfinished. Allow God to finish His work. When you feel the desperate, reaching grasp of the old self trying to seize back control, just breathe. Speak this gentle command softly to your own heart. I release what cannot cross with me. The very instant you articulate that intention, watch how your breath deepens and the tension drops from your shoulders. Your body immediately recognizes and obeys the orders that come from the divine throne. And now, hear this final word with the urgency of a sacred decree. A sign is imminently approaching to confirm everything I've shared with you. It will be a precise, undeniable moment when the room you are in feels subtly, inexplicably brighter, even though the light sources have not changed. It may happen when your own name crosses your internal thoughts with a sudden, potent weight and warmth, as if someone beloved called you from just behind your left shoulder. When that moment occurs, do not dismiss it as a trick of your mind. That flash of insight is the key turning in the lock. That is the new spiritual grid humming powerfully and undeniably to life. Hold perfectly still, chosen one, because in the immediate moments that follow, I will tell you exactly how to stand upright inside this holy, deliberate collapse without entirely shattering. And, more importantly, I will reveal the one single sentence you must speak aloud to fully and completely seal the rebirth of your soul. There is a powerful and necessary reason why the volume of your everyday surroundings has been utterly muted, chosen one. You keep labeling this heavy, persistent quiet as loneliness, but this intense solitude is heaven's most advanced and effective classroom. When the divine decides it is time to completely rewrite the operating system of a soul, the first action is to remove all the noise, the people, the trivial plans, the shallow distractions. This is done so that only the pure, powerful heartbeat of truth remains resonating within you. That profound, echoing silence you feel like you are constantly drowning in is not a punishment. It is, in fact, anesthesia. The divine surgeon cannot and will not operate effectively in an environment of chaos and distraction. The betrayals you suffered were the precise, painful scalpels. The social distance you experienced was the necessary disinfectant. Every single unanswered message, every suddenly canceled plan, every empty chair at your table, each was a calculated, precise incision designed to save your spirit before it bled out its purpose in the wrong company. You must understand that not everyone possesses the spiritual lung capacity to breathe at the elevated altitude you are rapidly reaching. Some people cherished you only as long as you remained small, easily predictable, and entirely convenient for their comfort. But the divine is intentionally enlarging your spiritual lungs, and the air at this new, higher level is exponentially thinner. You needed this intense period of isolation in order to fully learn how to breathe, unburdened and independent, once again. Inside this very period of isolation, heaven is diligently schooling you in the secret rhythm of divine timing. The material world operates strictly on clocks, deadlines, and schedules, but God operates exclusively on perfect alignment. This is precisely why you felt so frustratingly suspended, neither making clear forward progress, nor visibly moving backward. You are undergoing a process of complete synchronization with the massive, eternal timeline itself. Every single delay you have cursed as a setback is actually a powerful disguised protection. Every period of silence from the heavens, where your prayers seem to hit a wall, is a necessary spiritual calibration. While you pace your floor, begging for the smallest sign, legions of unseen angels are rerouting entire future timelines. They are working to guarantee that when the next door finally and dramatically opens, it is absolutely impossible for it to ever close again. And when your panicked mind screams, "I'm utterly stuck," you must recall the essential truth that even the most powerful seeds must rot underground before they possess the strength to rise. You are not forgotten. You are deliberately buried. You are not lost. You are strategically hidden. God did not exile you. He purposefully planted you. And in that hidden, fertile darkness, a holy, powerful, and unprecedented new beginning is taking root. The room where you now go to pray has subtly changed in temperature. The very air feels suddenly denser, almost electrically charged, This is because the overwhelming presence of heaven has decisively claimed that space. Your bed, where you rest, has become an altar. Your tears have been repurposed into sacred oil. The surrounding darkness that you fear is actually the spiritual womb where the most brilliant light is conceived. You mistakenly believe you have been dormant and still, but in the unseen, eternal realm, your spirit has been vigorously stretching, growing powerful new roots, and preparing to hold the sheer, awesome weight of impending miracles. You are currently incubating. You are actively becoming. The silence you endure is your necessary, protective cocoon, and you must not cut it open prematurely. If you do, the powerful wings that are rapidly forming inside you will tragically tear, and you will be unable to fly. Chosen one, grasp this truth with all your might. You were not separated to suffer, you were separated to powerfully survive. Isolation is your insulation. God sealed you off from the noise of the world to preserve the absolute purity of the high frequency He is actively installing into your spiritual DNA. The individuals who walked away from you were not lost. They were intentionally released. You did not lose necessary support. You lost overwhelming interference. Every single person who is currently absent from your life was a wall that was actively blocking the clear, perfect sound of heaven from reaching you. Can you feel that now? That subtle, deep hum in the quiet background, like a silent heartbeat under the surface of the earth? That is the sound of your destiny fully charging. So tonight, when the quietness of your space feels utterly unbearable and oppressive, do not instinctively reach for shallow distractions. Sit squarely in it. Allow the silence to powerfully stretch your capacity for depth. Let the quiet space speak its truth to you. You are not alone in that room. You are, in fact, surrounded by invisible, powerful witnesses who are silently cheering on your glorious transformation. And soon, very, very soon, this confining isolation will dramatically split open. The walls that currently seem to confine you will become clear, magnificent mirrors that powerfully reflect the unparalleled glory you have grown in absolute secrecy. But not yet, not until the sacred operation is 100% complete. Because what is coming next requires a deep and absolute stillness, the kind of profound quiet that only those who have survived and conquered the holy silence can truly begin to understand.